And this is Level Up, and I'm here with Ken and Karen, and we're here to talk to you about finding your dream job. And so I have Ken, and he's actually wrote a book. Ken, what's the name of that book?
Yeah, it's called Dream Job Discovery, how to find a job that fuels your passion, inspires your purpose, even if you don't know your passion or purpose.
And how did you get started with that?
Oh, it's a long story. It all started way back when I was 34 years old, and I woke up one morning and I hated my job so much I just didn't want to get out of bed. And it was the kind of job that most people would actually dream of having. I was a vice president for a global corporation, and I had the company car and the expense account and a great paycheck.
Cool.
And I just didn't want to get out of bed. And I knew I wanted to find a job that I could feel passionate about doing, but the problem was I had no clue what my passion was. So that's how it all started. That started my journey on trying to figure out what my passion was, and that led to ultimately figuring out a way that other people could do it a lot faster than using conventional methods.
No, I know my backstory is when, and this isn't really about finding my passion at the time, but I can relate to not wanting to get out of bed in the morning and go to work. And so I was a social worker for many, many years, and really thought that was, we always say people who want to help people, social work is a good way of doing that. But I really never kind of fit in to that space. And so I dreaded it. And so I recognized that just, what do you do? And then how did you turn over that feeling of dread into, well, how do I fix the problem? Because I didn't even know how to fix the problem until I went into IT. So I actually just kind of flipped the coin for me and tried something different, and it fit. It fit me, but not everybody has that opportunity to kind of just flip a coin and get lucky. So there's really more of a strategy to finding those things that make you feel good.
Yeah, in my case, I read 43 different books on how to find your passion or your life purpose. And, it took a while to get through all those books. And what I found after going through all that is that none of them connected the dots for me.
Mm.
None of them gave me a simple process to follow. So it ended in frustration for me. They all had me going through this deeply introspective process where, it was almost like I had to sit on the floor cross-legged, burn incense, walk up the mountain, talk to the monk, all that kind of stuff. I couldn't figure it out. And so finally I just kind of took matters into my own hands and said, there has to be a faster way. All these other methods are just having me look for one thing out of thousands of possibilities. It could be my passion. And, one month I think I'd find something, and the next month, no, I didn't really care about it anymore. So I had no faith that what I was coming up with was really my passion. So, like I say, it was just trial and error for a number of years until I finally connected all the dots and figured it out myself. And then I figured out a way to reverse engineer the whole process and turn it into what I've got now.
So, so this is something you literally created. This didn't come from, pages out of a book. It came from pages out of many books. And then you just, the light bulb came on, I guess.
Yeah, it literally was one of those light bulb moments. Literally, I just connected the dots, and I was drinking a cup of coffee and I said, oh my God, I finally
It's
figured
the
it out.
coffee that did it. No.
Yeah, it was the coffee. It's great coffee.
So can you kind of hint to what dots were you trying to connect and how that really changed you? Because that's, people want to know how it changed you, because if they know that, then they know that it could work for them.
Yeah, okay. Well, for me, the thing that kept coming up was, okay, I would find one day that I really, really enjoyed. If someone said, here's a document. Can you edit this document for me? Can you make it better? Right? Okay, fine. I would do that. Someone would say, can you redesign my website? Can you make it better? I can make it better. Right? Someone would say, okay, we have this process that doesn't seem to be working in our company. Can you come into our company and can you improve the process? Yeah, okay, fine. I can come in. I can improve the process. Someone would say, the furniture in this room isn't working. The layout's just not right. Can you help me rearrange the furniture in the room? Yeah, great. Okay. Working on my golf swing for hours trying to make it better. I could lose myself literally. That was when the light bulb went off. I could lose myself for hours whenever I was involved in a workflow process that involved improving or perfecting things. All right. So in my case, in the corporate world, no, I couldn't figure it out. I ended up, after reading those 43 books, I just said, you know what? I don't know where I'm going to move next in the corporate world to make me happy. So rather than take the chance, I will try to hang up my own shingle as a marketing consultant. Okay. And I will see if being my own boss would make me happy. And indeed, some days I was happier, but some days I wasn't. And once the light bulb went off for me and I realized improving and perfecting was my passion theme, I realized that a consultant's job by definition is to improve the client's condition. And any day that I was at a client's premise, helping them improve a process or a system or their marketing or whatever it was, whenever I was improving something, I would just get lost in it. You get into a flow state. That's one of the clues that you're following your passion, is when you get lost in a flow state. Hours pass. The coffee that you put down on the desk 2 hours ago, you haven't taken a sip of when you actually come out of the flow state, right? So I that's when I realized it's not a thing that you look for a passion. It's a theme that holds a bunch of individual things together. So all those things I just described, individually, you can imagine that when you first discover them, you're going, well, I don't know. I mean, I can't get a job around that. Okay. Or because they were all different things, like rearranging furniture, room in your golf swing, and coming up with a new website design, that they don't seem related at all unless you can relate them to a theme. So what happens is that everyone says, well, there's so many passions. Yes, but you know what? If you actually put them all down on paper and you thought about it, all of those different passions that you think you have fit under a single theme. Now, the beauty of the theme, and I call them types, I call them job passion types. The beauty of the theme is that once you know what your theme is, you can change what you do under that theme. So you can change jobs, you can change careers, as long as you're still going into something that follows the same theme, you will be happy. So that is the huge advantage, as opposed to using the old deeply introspective method where you come up with one thing. And then if you want to change your job, you have to go through that deeply introspective process again to try to figure out, well, if I'm going to change my career, what do I change it to? Once you know what your job passion theme is, you can easily move very quickly between careers. And I've made that even easier because even in the book, I say, once you've found your theme by taking the assessment, I actually show you, based on the standard occupational code classifications, what jobs fit those themes. So now, once you got this theme, look, there's like 100 different job types that you could have that fit that theme.
Now, I know as an educator and those in psychology or education, the first thing that we're going to go to, what about the Myers-Briggs inventory, personality inventory, or inventories and tests such as those things? Well, don't they produce the same theme? And then how are you different? And so I know, because I've had these kind of conversations before with other people, and they said, well, I fit into this category, and then because of this, I found this, and voila, that light bulb went off, or that magic wand, somebody waved the magic wand, and maybe it was luck that those kind of things fell in line and they found something that they became passionate about. Maybe it wasn't something that they knew they were passionate about, but they became passionate about. But we want to know, I want to know, Karen wants to know, how are you different than all of that? And how does your inventory assessment process work without giving away too much of the gold?
No, listen, I'm here to share. So the key thing is what you said, is that, yeah, Myers-Briggs, DISC, Clifton Strengths, Strengths Finders used to be called Strengths Finders, it's called Clifton Strengths now. Those are all different assessments that are used in career placement. All right. Each of them has its place.
Okay.
And I'm not saying they're bad. In fact, in my book, I show you that my assessment, in fact, is the missing piece that's never been filled by the other three. Each of
Oh,
those three fills a different piece. Your Myers-Briggs is your personality type. Your DISC is your behavior style. Okay. Clifton's strengths are your natural talents, right? But none of those assessments, they're all professional assessments. None of those professional assessments measure what you'd be naturally inclined to feel passionate about doing. They don't measure enjoyment, right?
oh,
So,
there's a
so
word
when
that we
someone
have not.
says like, oh yeah, well, I feel like I got my Clifton strengths, I got my strengths going here, I've got my personality aligns perfectly, my behaviors align personally. Those are traits that will help you achieve performance excellence in the job that you go into. All right, because you found a job that aligns nicely with those three things. But just because you excel at doing something, it doesn't mean that you feel passionate about doing that.
You know, you know, that word doesn't make two cents. If you do something really well, but you're not passionate about it, really?
Yeah, a classic example. I mean, um, I have this little story in the book actually. Just I remember back in high school, we could take some electives, right? So I remember it was my final year of high school. I came home and I told my dad that I was going to continue to take music because I wanted to continue to play saxophone in the school dance band, right?
Excellent.
My dad said, "I've heard you play saxophone." He said, "You're taking accounting instead." And so
Well,
I
then
took
your
accounting.
skills didn't line up, but
Well,
that
hang on.
does
So I took
okay.
accounting just to please my
Okay.
dad because I didn't want to upset my dad, right? And
Okay.
guess what? I got the highest mark in the class in accounting. I actually
Wow.
won a small scholarship to go to university because I was so good at accounting. Okay. And to this day, I refuse to balance a checkbook because I hate accounting so much. It's just not my passion. I happen to be very, very good at it, but it's just not my passion.
Okay.
Right. So it's possible. And in fact, this was the thing going back to when I was 34 years old. This was the thing after a couple of nights lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, tossing, turning, trying to figure out why is it I hate my job. That's what I figured out. I figured out that the skills upon which I had built my entire career success, the stuff I was really, really good at doing that I kept getting promoted, to do more of,
Mhm.
I discovered that, yeah, it was those things I did not enjoy doing. I happened to be excellent at them. Okay. I was excellent at training other people to be excellent at them. Okay. But I did not enjoy doing them myself. So that is a trap you have to watch, is because I have it in the book. It's called the job dissatisfaction sequence. You go into a company, okay, they find out what you're good at doing and they promote you based on how well you do those things, right? And then after a while you start to feel a little uneasy and a little anxiety sets in. And so you think maybe a change in jobs will do it. So what do? You leverage the skill set you got really good at doing at the first job to get your next job. And now it's a compounding problem. It's like running on a hamster wheel, right? You keep building those skills and building those skills. And if those are skills that you don't enjoy, you're not going
Now,
to be.
you are the first person that has used that word that I've heard in any conversation about job, career. And I don't know if it's talked about or if it's not talked about, but enjoyment, you know, I've never heard somebody use that term, that word in terms of their job. Do you enjoy going to work? I've never been at Karen, do you enjoy going to work?
I do now,
You
but
should, I was hoping you was gonna say that. You were supposed to say that
I was
because
in a toxic environment and I hated going to work.
okay,
But now, self-employed, I love it. And I'll
but
share my story later
oh, today?
if there's time.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. There's going to be time. Yeah.
Hmm.
Um, so how did you get from, so how did you, where does that enjoyment come from? Because again, I'm always going back to the fact that I do things really well. I think I do things really well. Um, I teach really well. I tend to believe that myself, and I've students have gone off and worked for Microsoft, Google, and that passion to get those people to the next stage of their life, I guess that does give me some enjoyment. At least it drives me, and I want to see them to be successful. And I tend to think I can do that in the right place in the right time. But I've never really nobody's ever asked me, do you enjoy what you do? So how did you get to from passion to enjoyment? I want to know where that link came from. If that makes sense, because at 34, if somebody were to ask you, do you enjoy going to work? You would have said,
No, I
yeah,
hated it,
yeah,
right? I hated it. But I didn't, like I said, it took me a while to figure out why I hated it, right? Because it didn't make sense that I would hate that job. I mean, it was like I
because you were good at it.
had the world by the tail, right? I mean, it doesn't make sense that I would hate that job. But here's the thing. When we're going, like, especially when, and I don't think it's any different now. I mean, but back then when I was, going through, university and getting my degree and all that kind of stuff, parents were very, parents are parents. They want to make sure that you are set up to have a comfortable lifestyle and things like that. And they want to make sure that you're going into a career that will be financially secure and have stability, right? So that you don't have to worry about stuff. And so you are always, I don't want to say forced, but you are always kind of guided into choosing a career, not based on, hey, do you think you'd really enjoy doing this? It's like, well, this is going to be good. You'll make lots of money doing this. Right. And so I think that's the first thing. When we're brought up and we're picking our courses in college and things like that, it's never really discussed with us. Oh, by the way, are you passionate about doing anything in particular? Right. And by the way, back then, I wouldn't have been able to answer what my passion was back then. Just like right now, like 8 out of 10 people I've interviewed over the last 20 years cannot tell me what their passion is, but they do want to know what it is. They've tried, they're frustrated, they couldn't figure it out, just like it took me almost forever to figure it out, right? But it's not that they don't want to know, right? The other thing too is that a lot of people are brought up basically with the belief that you're not supposed to like your job. It's just a means to an end to earn money to afford a lifestyle of your choice, right? And so the idea is no, it's just no, 9 to 5, you go do your thing, you make a paycheck, you enjoy your weekends, you enjoy your vacations. That's what life is all about. So there's a bit of a mind shift that has to happen. Like, I can't help everybody. There are people that just, they're not ready to consider a dream job yet because they don't believe in the concept of a dream job, right? But there are people that wake up one morning like I did and say, surely there has to be more to life than this. I should be enjoying myself now and not waiting for retirement to have a good time, right? And
Right.
those are the people I can help.
And I do want to get to Karen's story, but when you said that, my thought was, can can that process really identify those quote unquote dream jobs for the individual so that they can kind of make those efforts to go after them? Is can, does that process really exist? And I guess it does, because you've got a book, and because I want now, and I'll be honest, I don't have a copy and I didn't do the assessment yet, only because of lack of time. But if I had the opportunity, like you said, I want to know if I can figure it out. But if there's something that's going to help me, if there's a tool that can help me identify what I would enjoy, and I like that word, what I would enjoy doing, and if it's a real thing that I can do, I want to go after it. Now, I think I know, because I've been telling people, and I want to be a public speaker, and eventually I want to be a keynote, and that's a passion. And that would, if you know me 20 years ago, not a thing, because we're talking about just not having those capability, not even having the ability to speak in public, let alone having, enjoyment or support or all those other things that would go around that kind of space. So when I'm in the classroom, and I'm doing my thing, whatever that thing is, if it's lecturing, or if it's demonstrating, or if it's encouraging or mentoring or whatever it is, to some degree, I think I am enjoying that, because when I could tell stories, and I don't want to tell my stories today, but I get through LinkedIn, because I'm connected with a lot of my, students in the past. and they'll come back to me and say, hey, remember we did this? And and I hated it. But they're doing it now, years later. They're good at it. They've got the confidence, they have the aptitude, and they're solving business problems, and they're proud of themselves for that. But they went through my class to get there. And so that makes me feel good. But I still think there's more for me. But for Karen, I know she's dying to tell her story. Karen, it's your turn. I want you to tell
Okay,
your
well,
story.
after listening to Ken and he talked about the themes, that really hit me because I'm going back to high school and getting out of high school. I didn't go to college. Right out of high school, I immediately started working and I was a bookkeeper for 15 years. So, talk about accounting. I loved it. I was about the numbers. I was always in the back office, accounting, people are in the back office. And I had to go sit in the front office one day and I hated it. But, I kind of sucked it up and did it. Well, long story, that was in California. I moved to Virginia and couldn't find a job in accounting. I had an opportunity to work for a large insurance company, and I started off as a temp in human resources. I, did the front desk, and I was kind of like the first person that someone walked into to greet. And so I did that. Well, then I got promotions and I got to test the applicants. Then I interviewed them, and then I had the opportunity. Hated it again because I had to talk in front of the new hires and tell them about the benefits. I had to, kind of, I was in charge of them their first day of their new hire. And again, public speaking was not something that I wanted to do, but it was part of the job and it wasn't a good opportunity. So I did that. So for 10 years, I did that and I started like, okay, this is okay. Well, within that 10 years, or after the 10 years, I had an opportunity to apply for an executive assistant position where I was supporting the vice president general manager. And 85% of that job was planning their corporate events. And, I loved planning events for my kids, always, the room mom and everything. And that became passionate. I started enjoying it, my job into, a little bit more detail. I went back to school, got my associates, and then I finished, with my bachelor's in hospitality. And things were going great. 5 years later, love my job, love the company, office consolidation. They laid off 450 people down in Norfolk. Um, I had planned all their corporate events, did nonprofit charitable contributions and volunteering. So those were kind of three of my passions. That job was eliminated. So I was like, okay, I wasn't able to transfer with the company, broke my heart, but my family was here and worked for some other companies. I just didn't like it. I hated going to work, just like, Ken. And I one day said, you know what? I'm going to start my own event planning company. So basically, I jumped and I started it. That was in 2010. And I started, doing small workshops, and it grew to a lot of corporate events, nonprofit galas for large organizations here in Hampton Roads as well as California. I was trying to do dual business on the West Coast and the East Coast. Started doing bridal shows, started doing, things, but some of my things I wasn't passionate about. Then COVID happened. All my events were canceled. And so what did I do? I had to think outside the box. And so I started another business where I was sewing, and I sew to bring joy and happiness to others and their little hearts. Here's
Oh
St. Patrick's
yeah.
Day. These are little hearts and they're called hearts of love.
Cool.
And I started, on Etsy shop and Facebook Marketplace, and I started selling them. And, that kind of kept me busy because I've always sewn, and it was a passion bringing joy and happiness during a pandemic. And then I started thinking, what can I do with my events? So got trained in virtual event planning. So I'm a certified event producer. Got a few certificates under my belt. And then I was looking around thinking, what else can I do? And picnics came into play. And, who doesn't love a nice picnic on the beach or in the park, on your porch, in your backyard, at the lake? So I started, looking at all the props that I've had throughout these years of event planning that I've used for, my corporate and nonprofit events. And voila, picnics.
Cool.
So, talk about, I did all the Myers-Briggs and the DISC, and I learned how to react and how to, you know, how you interact with others, but it doesn't show you that what you're passionate about. I never took a test or, had, that, but that's my passion. So that's kind of my story.
I love it. That was
Your
perfect.
Well,
your
thank you.
job, your job passion type, which I call a dream job type, by the way, is organizing and coordinating based on what
Yes.
you just described.
Yep. That's me.
So if you took the assessment, that's the result we would expect to see.
Okay. Well, I too haven't gotten the book. I just heard about it tonight. So I will, look into it and, see if it matches, which I'm sure it will.
Well, then I think this would be a good challenge then. If Ken, if you give myself and Karen 2 weeks, some time, and I'm thinking like, let us do the assessment, come back in 2 weeks, kind of talk about the assessment that we did
Perfect. Yeah.
with you and see if it really does what it's supposed to do. Because now I'm really curious and I want to know. And I want to know because I'm 52 and I say that a lot. I say that I am old. I say that and then
Just a
older
kid.
and old yeah, and
How
older
old
people
as you
say
feel?
and older people say you're not old. And I am, and I feel old. And so exactly, Karen, I'm as old as I feel and I feel old. And I feel that if I don't do it now, it won't get done. Meaning that if I don't make this kind of pivot with whatever is out there, there's something that's right here. And it's not about COVID and it's not about having to pivot and all those things that we've done with the pandemic. It's coming from in here. And I feel that there's this urge, there's this urgency, there's this urge, and there's this something right around the corner. And I just don't know what it is. I want to go to a certain place. And like I said, I want to be on stage. And I want to tell those stories that I think people want to hear. And the stories that are part of my being. But I want to just be sure. There's something about it. I just want to be sure that if this really is in line with my passion, I want to make sure that it also is something that I enjoy doing. Because it's not
Well,
about
I
the
mean,
class. It's not about the classroom anymore. It's about for a bigger reach. Karen, I'm sorry.
oh, well, I just was, that's kind of how I started. Is like, I want to do all these big events. Well, you got to start somewhere.
Right.
You have to, I started, with very small workshops and conferences. I worked up to, 450 people galas, transforming basketball gyms and horse arenas into a black tie event.
Wow.
And so Rome wasn't built in a day. So it's taking those steps to, doing what you're doing, because you do have a gift and you have to share that. And I think it's the stories that we're sharing just here today that, you'll get there. And,
I appreciate that.
yeah.
So, Ken, is that something that And Karen, is that something that sounds good to you? If you and I take this assessment and come back in 2 weeks, Ken, is that okay?
Sounds great. I already sent you a link. I'll send you a link too, Karen.
Okay.
Okay. And the assessment, just so you know, what it's going to do is going to identify your top 3 dream job types. Those are your job passion types. Ideally, you want whatever job that you go into to use your dominant dream job type 80% of the time. And if not, that's why we give you 3, because a lot of people usually find that they can stack their top 3 to get their 80%. And so those are some of the things we can explore once you've got your results. And you'll also know by taking the assessment what your dream job title suggestions would be based, for each one of those dream job types. And just to give you a quick idea of how we determine all that, as a bonus, what you're going to end up with is a list of all your core values, your supporting values, your sanctioning values, and your character values, because it's your values that determine your dream job type. Okay, so it's just, think of it just like a game of Scrabble, where you've got your wooden tiles with letters on them, and they make up the words. Well, values are like the wooden tiles with the letters on them. Different values make up different dream job types.
Okay.
So that's how it works.
Sounds
I
good.
can't wait to read
Yeah,
it.
and by the way, so why is that good? Why is it? Because your values, that's your moral and ethical compass. That measures, that is the true you. That's your authentic self, right? And so the purpose of the assessment is to get to your authentic self. Strip away all the things that you do, the ways you act to please other people. Because let's face it, we do a lot of things in our life to make other people happy, so that, a fear of being judged, all that kind of stuff. We do things that aren't necessarily our authentic self just to get by, right? And including going to job and putting on a happy face every day, right? Because we get the paycheck and we get the promotion and we get another paycheck and away we go, right? But it's a masquerade. We're not being our authentic self. So the assessment is designed to strip away what's not authentically you, leave the true you, which for some people, by the way, is a surprise. And when they actually look at the results and say, oh my goodness, I've been doing this and this and this, and that's not really me, is it? Right. So anyway, look forward to seeing those results in a couple of weeks. Should be fun.
Okay, well, this is what I want to do now. It's 7 o'clock. And so I want to thank Ken and I want to thank Karen for joining me today in Level Up. And so, of course, this is our weekly Wednesday meeting. And so next week I'll be with Mitch Gray once again, and then join us again in 2 weeks from today. And we'll be the 3 of us will be again, and we're going to have a really deep discussion about what our passion is in terms of our job and maybe even in our life. Sounds good to me. So the 2 of you hang on and let me stop the live stream and we get to chat a little bit. Okay.
Thanks a lot,
you.
man.
Okay.
Thanks, Keith.